Welcome back. I'm Rick Sanchez here in the world headquarters of CNN. Let's do this a little differently. Before I show you the video, let me show you one of the responses, because this is not a story that we're just showing you for the first time. It's been on today. Let's go to MySpace if we can. Listen to what some of the folks who are watching this newscast now are saying. What reason could these officers possibly have for doing this to this girl? If we did this to our teenagers, we'd be put in the slammer. She's right. They better be fired. All right, that's one opinion. Now, let's get to the story. It's something that we're taking note of. It's something that's actually easier to talk about than to actually watch. I'm about to show you a piece of video that's going to probably get you a little upset as you see it, but you probably should see it. And I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. This is a jailhouse surveillance video. It shows a Washington State Sheriff's deputy beating up a teenage girl. You heard me right. He's kicking, and he's beating, and he's pulling her hair, and this is all inside a holding cell. All right, roll the video if you can, Dan. Here it is. Take you back. It's November. She's 15 years old. She's accused, allegedly, of stealing a car. She tosses her shoes off in the direction of the officer. We don't know what they're actually saying to each other, but the deputy suddenly attacks the girl, punching, kicking, throwing her to the floor, holding her by her hair, and then punching some more. It's not fair to just show the silent video and make a decision about it, obviously, although it's tough to not come up with any kind of conclusion. We don't know exactly what happened before the incident as well. There she's taking her shoes. She's not really throwing them, but she's tossing them, but obviously that set him off. We know what we can see. For the life of me, I cannot imagine anything that that girl could have said or done that made that officer's response appropriate. The deputy is on trial, by the way, now in Seattle. He's pleaded not guilty to fourth-degree assault. The judge allowed this video to be released, and in many ways, we're glad he did. We need to probably see that injustice, and sometimes not just talk about it, but see it with our own eyes. This next one is a little more hard to picture, though, and yet it's worse. Far worse. A couple of judges in Pennsylvania are going to prison for many years. They've tried to get rich by sending teenagers to jail. That's right. They were being paid to send teenagers to jail. This is an unbelievable and outrageous story. It's one you must see. We'll have it for you right after the break. Regarding that video we showed you just moments ago, welcome back, by the way. I'm Rick Sanchez here in the world headquarters of CNN. We've got somebody on Facebook who's responding to that right now. Faith is watching, and she says, I can only imagine what the parents of that young girl felt when they saw that video. It seems nowadays the way to be a criminal and get away with it is to become an officer. Well, that may be a little bit of a reach, but nonetheless, we appreciate the comment. Robert, flip that if you can. Let's go over to Twitter. I want to get that one right there in the middle. Yeah, thanks for covering the juvie story. Getting the word out is most of the battle. And, of course, it's about the money. Really, you think? Well, let's do this story then, because in this one, it is, in fact, about the money. Show me the video if you can, Dan. These are two elected officials in Pennsylvania. They're pleading guilty, get this, to taking kickbacks in exchange for throwing teenagers in jail. How's it work? Well, meet Judge Mark Ciavarella and Judge Michael Kanohan. They pocketed $2.6 million from private youth detention centers who had to keep a very high head count in order to keep their government contract. And that's why the judges were sending kids to their jails who may not necessarily have needed to be in jail. This is unbelievable. Marcia Levick is joining us now. She's the legal director of Juvenile Law Center in Philadelphia. Marcia, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
I don't even know what to ask. I mean, what could these kids have done?
Well, many of them did very minor things like shoplifting, like conspiracy to shoplift. I think that, your readers reacting to and your viewers reacting to the prior video, this is a really shockingly outrageous story of personal greed by public officials that is really unprecedented, I think, in our history.
Yeah, I understand. One of the girls apparently had mocked a school official on MySpace or on Facebook, and that's one of the reasons that she was originally put on probation, which then led her to end up in jail. And, I mean, we could go on and on about the cases, but there's something bigger in this case. This judge, as we understand it, back in 2002, shut down a public detention center, in lieu of a private detention center. Sounds like he knew where this was going, jailing people for profit.
Well, I think that certainly the federal investigation does make it look like he knew exactly what he was doing, that he was able to negotiate with private individuals and private providers to line his own pockets at the expense of children.
There is a big problem in this country, isn't there, when it comes to our jails? And, you know, a quarter of the people who are in prison in the United States, according to recent studies, pardon me, a quarter of the people that are in prisons in the entire world are here in the United States. I mean, that's an enormous number. And look at this trend. I want to get your reaction to this. See if we've got this full screen that we can put up. Let's go back to 1982. 1982, 2.2 million people are behind bars in the United States. Now, today, 7.3 million people behind bars in the United States. That means it's more than tripled. And during this trend, by the way, we've seen an increase in prisons and jails being run by private corporations. If you make something private, if you put a profit behind something, aren't you almost automatically going to see an increase in that, whatever it is that you just put a profit behind?
Well, of course, we increase the likelihood. You know, there are some private providers, though, who are not for-profit. They're actually nonprofit, and I don't think that we should paint the entire world of private providers as a negative one. But this case, you know, obviously illustrates the harm that comes from allowing people to make money by jailing people.
Well, what's the difference between a private provider and one that's not for profit? I'm not quite sure I understand the difference.
Well, the individuals, the corporations in this case, were literally making money. They were making money by taking children in. The judges were making money in exchange for placing children there. There are private providers as well as public providers who are not making a profit at doing this. They are, many of them, legitimately trying to provide a service for these children.
We have increased money in prisons in this country over the last 2 decades, and most of the people who are being imprisoned are not necessarily hard offenders. I mean, they're what? Take me through it.
Well, the children that we're talking about in this particular story in Luzerne County were not hard offenders at all. These were kids who, whether it was a MySpace page or the shoplifting or a simple slap, these were kids who were charged with very, very minor infractions and really had their lives dramatically changed by what happened here.
Marcia, we're going to stay in touch with your organization. We're going to continue to look into this because this is really a travesty. And to hear that a judge, for the sake of money, would ruin the lives of teenagers, in this case, teenagers, I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my head around it. That's a horrible thing. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.